the side garden, looking a bit worse for wear, but it is winter, 30th of July 2024. And the front garden, my Stringia has a little flower out, which is nice. Oh, actually, even the winter rouge is coming along there too, which is nice. Some rubbish in there, I'll have to get that out later. Shadow, shadow. So a little bit of colour. So not completely bereft of some interest. And these ones, I think this might be the ranunculus, which, as I've said many times, not keen on the name, but for a bit of colour in winter, very nice. It's overexposed, of course, but not too bad there. A little bit more colour. Hidden bit of colour. Bit of flower there. The Hebe's come along quite nicely. It's looking quite big now. I've put in some actually, that looks like weed there, so I'll get rid of that. Some, I think they're supposed to be purple alyssum in here just recently, the ones that I've grown from seed, so we'll see how they go. Aquilegia there. One of the lavender bushes going quite nicely. These front little garden patches I'll have to redo at some point. You can see the bells of Ireland, as it turns out, might have a bit of prickliness to them, but the flowers there have died off, although they do look quite nice as almost like the framework. Touch more colour. I think there's a weed there I'll have to get out at some point. A bit more colour over this way. And some of the bulbs are starting to come up. Oh, it's coming up quite nicely there. So this has had a layer of compost. It's one of those sticky weeds. I might just take that out just in case. I put a layer of horse manure over here. There's a bit of compost. More bulbs coming up. I think I put some alyssum in there as well. And speaking of bulbs coming up, the little patch under the bird bath is starting to come up quite nicely. Here, actually, we did this recently. There are a whole bunch of self-seeded lettuce in there, which is what the bits around here are, because that was some of the compost that I had. So I just got rid of those. But anywho, looks like some more of the self-seeded lettuce, again from the compost. Those, actually, that's another sticky weed, got to get rid of that. So that's kind of my main weed that I focus on removing. Excuse me. Well, actually, that's a Nigella, but that's all right. Nigella seemed to be quite happy to grow. Yeah, so there we go. That's the sticky weed. Nigella seem to be very prolific with their self-seeding. So it kind of looks a bit like a carrot top as well. But anyway, actually I'll get rid of that lettuce because cyclamen is just there with a bit of colour, which is nice. White alyssum, which has been there for a while now and fills out the little border nicely. Some more bulbs. Actually, that is my Daphne. It's actually got some flowers that have opened up on it. I think that might actually be the first time I've seen flowers open on there, so that's quite nice. There's more sticky weeds, so excuse me as we step in here and pluck that out. Now, because this is all done as no dig, nice and easy. Also, it's a little bit wet at the moment because we've had a bit of frost this morning, but it's a bit cold these days. So I'm just pulling some more of these out. As I can smell the unpleasant smell of gas because it's right near a gas meter. I think that's the bulk of those. There's some more over here. Excuse the erratic camera work as I do some impromptu weeding. That's actually, again, pinch at the base. Excuse the noise of the hoons. Yes, but because it's no dig, the soil's nice and loose, so you can just, as long as you give it a nice little pinch close to the base, it can all come out, which is good. So the tradie going past that time. The lupin is still doing its thing. Of course, it's died back a lot, but that's okay. We go over here. Looks like we'll get a new lupin for this year, which would be nice. I have weeded here as well, so I've got little alyssum. So those are more of the ones that have been growing from seed. The Nepeta in the corner there. And this cyclamen, or cyclamen, not sure pronunciation, has actually done alright. So this is kind of like the experimental heap that I put here just to basically kind of dump little bits of garden stuff and to regenerate. It was topsoil when I redid this, so it was not the best quality, and I just kept putting vegetative matter on top to let that sort of rot down and slowly improve there in theory. Some more bulbs coming up. I'm not sure which sort. There's another Nepeta plant. Each of the Nepetas, I believe, are a different variety. I can't remember what sort they are, though. I believe that's a little weird there, so I'll pluck that out. And we've got the hollyhock, which I cut right back. The dianthus, I think, also known as chrysanthemum. I think some of the... I'm not actually sure what one these are, but I've got 3 of those. I have a vague recollection of buying those at the same time as I got my liliums for here. Oh, pinch that. That one I didn't grab so well. That's the thing, I mean, you can still, some weeds will still not go the full way, but that's okay. And this lovely splash of white in the garden now, and some more bulbs. So now, I need to do a lot more weeding and tidying up, but I'll go to the backyard. So, the veggie patch. We have a number of brassicas that I've got planted about the place. There should be a mix of cauliflower and broccoli. That's a little, again, more weeding. This soil's a little bit tougher, but again, give it a good pull, get the whole root system. And we also have onion, I think, and I think that's actually from the top of an onion. So part of a bit of compost. But I thought, I'll just plant it in there and see what happens. I don't really expect much from it, but if anything, it might actually produce a nice flower head, which would be good. It's been growing there. Oh, more of the... So the sticky weed is kind of everywhere. A bit annoying, but there we go. I think in amongst here we might have some poppies as well. I'm not sure, but at the moment they're not interfering with any of my growing space. I'm not too fussed either way. So we have all the ones here. I'm fairly sure are actually self-seeded onions, I think, but they could be garlic because I had a bit of both around here. So this is a local on their motorised bike. So I'm not sure. They could be onions, they could be garlic, they could be leeks. Either way, I'll just let them grow, and whatever they produce, I'm happy to harvest. So that'll be all right. There, and there, the capsicum, or sweet peppers, I think is what we probably refer to them in the Northern Hemisphere. And they've obviously died off in the frost, so that's fine. A number of lettuce, there's iceberg lettuce, that I have planted out from ones that are in the greenhouse. The pak choi is now mostly bolting, which is okay, not a problem, except that it blocks off my pathway through. This is a little bit wild. There are some carrots in there, also some onions, I believe, and the kale is still growing along. Let's see if we can step around safely. Okay, so got some beans here. I think these are either sugar snap peas or not sweet peas, snow peas. It's clearly not doing much, so it's not really growing up the pole there at the moment, but that's okay. Not a huge issue. A nice little bit of water on the kale leaf there. It's also a bit of what looks like mildew or something there, and a little bug. But that's all right. I can probably actually pull those out at some point, but I'm not using this space for anything else at the moment, so they can just keep growing. And over here, some more beans, or peas, I should say. More lettuce, pak choi there, lettuce there. Carrots coming up there. Carrots there. Basically, these are more carrots over there. They should be, I think it was garlic, carrot, onion, carrot, leek, I think was the way I'd set that up. So we'll see how it goes. But I actually did pull some weeds out here recently. Obviously not over the whole lot, but there we go. I think that one's a leek that's left over from the summer crops, but then it might actually get to a proper size, which would be nice. If we step over the veggie patch wall, we've got our rhubarb there. And what was there, and it's still there, is the fruit tree. So this one turns out to be the peach, there's the apricot, and then probably nectarine there, I suspect. This area is quite messy, but there you go. That's the gooseberry bush, which will be moving over to here. Now here, I have recently acquired a josterberry, and down the other end I've got a blueberry, and then there are an assortment of flowers and things that I got from the local store, including hyacinth. Now, I was not aware that hyacinth produced quite a potent scent until I went to my local hardware store, and I could smell a lovely aroma, and I wasn't sure where it was coming from. So eventually I asked one of the staff, I said, "There's this smell that I keep getting from here." And then they took me to the hyacinth and said, "It's probably this, because even when it's not doing much, you can still smell it." And it turns out, yep, that's what it is. So I've got 2 here. There's another one in the greenhouse, which is looking quite nice. We've got the somewhat wild area down here. So we have a foxglove there, hollyhock here. Excellent. Let's have a look there at the beetles that are having a bit of a lovely time there. Self-seeded sweet peas, more or less in there. And around here we have some of the dianthus again. Fish pond doing its thing. The water actually coming out of the fountain at the moment, and I think we have one of the previously little fish, now not so little. They seem to like to sit at the surface during the day. Oh, I can see it moving there, so it's alright, it's all good. And this is still a little bit of an experiment. Let's see how we go with that. Again, that's a lot of self-seeded nigella, but that's alright. The store-bought Granny Smith apple tree is doing fine. I'll just walk around here and, again, as usual, ignoring the mess. So, we have the onion seeds. It turns out they were okay. My suspicion is, hang on, just, it seems like this is the weeding video, but we don't want that one there. I don't want that one over there either. Oh, or that one. And that one either. Okay, so it turned out what most likely was the case, I suspect, is that it was a bit cold. So the onion took a bit longer to germinate. It's still not 100%, but I'm happy enough with that. That's fine. So I'll do a full turnaround here for some reason. Okay, so this is a little bit of an experiment here. These are chia seeds, which it turns out will grow into, if I'm successful, salvia. So I got chia seeds for an art project our local, our national broadcaster had recently, and it was our Gardening Australia had one of their presenters was the focus of a portrait competition. I don't think there's any prize for it. It was just basically a bit of fun. That's certainly why I did something for it. So I painted the portrait, but I used chia seeds to provide like a beard, because he's known for his beard. And so I used chia seeds to grow a living beard, as it were, and I've got plenty left, and so it's just a bit of an experiment to see if I can grow them into actual salvia plants now. Audrey is still coming along, looking a bit ragged there, but still seems to be okay. My roughly treated kiwi fruit, I don't think is actually dead yet, which is why it's still here. There's a little bit of green there, so I might have stopped that being too flooded before it was too late. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. So this is one of the even weeds in there. There we go. Let's pull that one out. This is this is iceberg lettuce. There's some more over there. So these are again same batch as the ones in the veggie patch, but I've just been growing them in here in pots in this case, and then other ones, actually there are two in pots there, and then the other ones I've just planted directly into the ground to see how they go. In here we have more, let's put that lid down, we have more of the chia seeds. Actually those look like they're doing all right, so that might be all right. I believe that one's kiwi fruit, and this is actually a lupin that I'm growing from a seed, and that actually seems to be doing particularly well, which I'm very happy with. That's possibly kiwi fruit, and then I'm not sure, but those are kind of just spillovers, I think. This is actually what I was using to grow the chia seeds in, and it's just a sliced cheese container. It turns out it's actually a very good mini terrarium for the sake of that. If you don't want to spring for one of these official ones, just to get things started, a little sliced cheese pack is totally fine. Again, another kiwi fruit, I believe. I think these are more alyssum, although I have not labelled them, obviously. But judging by the looks of those, I'd say those are alyssum, so that's fine. Those are apparently Canterbury bells, because I do have a label. Those are definitely not cabbage. That actually looks like a couple of alliums and unknowns. So we'll see. We'll let those keep growing and see what happens. Now, I believe that's rosemary, and that probably was as well, but obviously isn't doing so well. Those look very purposefully planted, and I don't know what they are, because labels. These are celery. They seem to be doing okay. We have some more celery there, one that's being potted up, and some more rosemary, and then I suspect the others are all alyssum again, because I've got a lot of alyssum. Now, here we have the other hyacinth. As I said, this one's doing quite nicely. This is basically, it's a weed bucket, effectively. There's water in it. It does get some mosquitoes in it, so I have to sort of keep lowering the water level at times. But it's just there so I can pull weeds and put them in there, and they can sort of digest down, or decompose, compost, if you will. And eventually that'll become basically like a fertilizer for plants and things. There's more alyssum in here, and this is why I love alyssum, because it makes a nice carpet of colour. This one's been probably the longest growing one, I think. And that's just a lovely field of white. We've got alpine strawberries there, a bit too sherbety, sweety for me, but it might have actually just been the first ones. They might not have grown as well as they could have to start with, so we'll see. The pineapple is still going. Obviously I must have put a bulb in there as well. A number of bulbs that I have, those might also be some of them, were ones that our eldest received from someone at work. He gave them to me and said they were compost. So I thought, okay, so I'll put them in the compost. Some of them actually came out of the compost and looked like they were starting to grow. I thought, I think those are actually different. So I do actually have some of those planted around the place. And I suspect what the situation was is they are viable bulbs that can be grown as bulbs and will quite possibly produce some nice flowers and things. So we'll see how we go. This is a slightly beaten up potato plant, and then over there I've put what I believe is probably a passion fruit, which I've grown from a seed, because I figure it can just grow up here, like it can stay in the greenhouse. I'm not a huge fan of passion fruit. Every now and then I don't mind one, but as a continual eating fruit, as it were, they're not really my favourite, but it doesn't mean I don't like to grow them. Well, there's also another pineapple in there which is doing acceptably, I guess. It's doing all right. Oh, and here, these are raspberry canes. So I trimmed my raspberry back, which I've supposed to be, I'm supposed to do it every year, but I haven't done it until this year. I kind of clipped them at random times, but this time I've done it properly. But I thought, instead of just getting rid of the canes, I'll put them in here. And if they grow on, they grow on. If they don't, it doesn't really matter, it's fine. But there are also potatoes in there, which, as you can see, is sort of starting to come up. So that's nice. I still haven't removed the hollyhock in here, but that's okay. Again, at the very least, it just produces more greenery that I can use for composting. Yes, this area is a mess, but that's because I pulled out the cauliflower because it wasn't going to produce any more cauliflower heads. I don't think they do produce extra heads like broccoli do. So the leaves are just basically kind of like the equivalent of chop and drop. I just sort of pulled them off and dropped them where they were. So now we'll do the whole don't look, it's a mess, not properly weeded, etc, etc, etc. And we'll race over to the back. Excuse the sound of the heater. Okay, so over here, so we have another cyclamen there. Possibly poppy, I'm not entirely sure. Clearly I need to weed that area or do something with it. We've got another either sugar snap pea or snow pea. There's a little viola there. And this thing that I can't remember what it is. Actually, I need to trim that back a bit more, but that's still going alright. Some more dianthus. This alyssum's not looking quite so healthy, but it's still alright. Some bulbs there. And along here, I'm not entirely sure if that's just weed matter or if it's a plant that I put in. I can't remember what it is. The latter is actually quite possible. So we'll leave that as it is. But a bit of a red leaf there, it's interesting. The hebe here is doing alright. And here, I'm not actually sure what that is, but that's probably a plant that I purchased and planted there, so that's alright. Here's more of the self-seeded lettuce. The orange tree is doing alright. The cutback dahlia there seems to be okay. The big one of the two apple trees from seeds doing alright, and the small one's doing alright as well. And we've got I assume that's the adenophora there, but I don't quite know. We'll have to see. And more of the self-seeded lettuce. So that, excuse the quick spin around, is the garden on the 30th of July 2024. Thanks for watching. Happy gardening.